we have looked at the while loop, and we have talked about the concept of while loops, and we have looked at different examples, just like the prime numbers, the factors of numbers. We have looked at how we can actually use booleans and equating it to variables and allowing that to work for us in terms of certain examples that we did. I'll be sharing my screen shortly to show you. We just go through some things before we actually start. And look at what we did in the last class. We looked at the infinite loop. We looked at how we can get a prime number and so on and so forth. So there are a lot of things that we have done so far. And I hope, hopefully, when we start tonight's class, we're just going to go straight to for loops. And I'm very glad that we have done the concept of for loops and we know what looping is all about, going through a particular cycle, one after each cycle does a particular function, it goes to the next one, it keeps on until that particular assignment is completed. So in the concept of for loop, we're just going to go straight to examples and we're going to see what for loops actually does. So the very first thing we want to do is to print numbers from zero to 10. And for that, we're going to use the range function in Python, and we're going to say for I in range, maybe remember we want to print numbers from 0 to 10. And what are we going to do? We have to print 0 to 10. That means definitely if you're using range, which I'm going to show you at some point. So let me just do something like this for I. Remember that I means each element in that particular loop, each element in that particular loop, and the loop you're using is a range of 10. So for I is each of the elements which takes a value, and in range, so in range of what? In range, we're using 10 for now. Please, by the time I run this output, I would like you to observe what is actually wrong with it, and let's see how we can make it work for us. So for I in range 10, what do I want you to do? I want you to print the values of I. Okay, so if you run this particular code, first of all, we're supposed to connect this. We're supposed to connect this, so it's connecting at some point right now. Initializing and it will be connected. All right, so we'll do this, we'll print it out. So we can see we have 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Something is definitely wrong with our code. We wanted print numbers from 0 to 10. What should we do to make it 10? We are seeing just 0s to 9 here. What should we do to make it 10? And also, each of these print I, it means that 0 is a value of I, and also 1 is a value of I as it is going through each of the range. That is the reason for the looping. For I in range 10, for I in each of the elements in the range 10, these are the product, print them out. Let's see. So this is the concept of looping, and it's the for loop we are looking at right now. So I don't know, is anybody that wants to try out and try to see how we can actually get 0 to 10 as a whole at once instead of just stopping at 9. We have done this before, I think before now, or even in your previous knowledge of Python or the previous knowledge of programming. What should we do to make this particular number 0 to 10 directly? Is there anybody that wants to try?
Yes, good evening again, Mr.
Yes, good
Kenny.
evening, sir.
Every
Good
member
evening,
of the
sir.
class. Yes,
Yes, sir.
as we've been taught previously, to do this, all you need to do is to increase the range. We know that when you put some numbers in the range, the last number will actually not come out. So if you want 10
Will
to
not
come
be
out in this example, you have to say in range of 11. So it will start from 0, then stop at 10.
fantastic, fantastic. You're doing amazing, Dr. Femi. Thank you very much. So we just change this from 10 to 11, and definitely once you've been running out, definitely going to give us. So that's the value. That's how the range function operates in Python as well. So the next thing we're going to do, let's now look at the for loops. We have what we call the for loops properties. So we can just say, I was just giving an example. I did not go straight to explain what for loop does. So we have certain properties of for loops. We have loops over a sequence. You can loop over a sequence. You can loop over a list. You can loop over a string, and you can also loop over a range, and so on and so forth. But those four are the main things that it likes looping all over: the sequence, the list, the string, and the range. You can see we've just done that with range. So in range, now please pay attention. We'll be using that more especially. In range, we have the start. We can in the range we can start. We can use what we want to use to start. You can also use what to use to end, and also the step size in which you want to use, which you are going to also do that now. So let's print numbers from let's print numbers from 1 to 10 with a step size of 2. So let's see how we can make it work. So the very first thing is just for us to use for I. You can use for anything at all. You can just use for, let me use for Odrak in range. Odrak in range. Let's say we want to say from print numbers from 1 to 10, step size 2. So the very first one is where we are starting from, step size. Okay. Now the next thing is going to be what? The end. Where do we want to end? Where do we want to end? We want it to end at a particular number, and which is where springs in the step size of 10. So let's use 10. Then the step size is what? 2. So by the time we do that, that means each we definitely end with a column. So what we're saying now is for Udrak in range 1, in range, this thing is, the start number is 1. It's going to end at 10, and the step size is 2. So by the time we print this out, print Udrak, we print Udrak now, we're going to see the outcome of this particular. So we have 1, it started with 1, we added 2 to it. So after 1 is 3, 5, 7, 9. Okay, so that's a practical example of using different elements in different, what they call it, range, using the start, the end, and the step. Okay, so if you do not use a particular step size, by default, it will take the value of what? 1. So now the next example, we'll just be looking at examples and examples. At some point, if you do not understand it, just raise up your hand. We'll definitely find a way to make that work for us. Okay, so let's go straight to another example. The very first one we did was to print numbers from 1 to 10. This one was to use the step size. And the next one is to do what? Print numbers from 5 up to 30 included, and step size is 3. If there's anyone that wants to try it out, please raise up your hand. Just tell me what to do, and I will do it right live and direct. Please, we want to print numbers from 5 up to 30 included, and step size is 3. Is there anybody that wants to try it out? Just raise up your hand and I'll call you. Just tell me what to do. Okay, Mistress.
I have a question.
Okay, who is having the question?
What's the meaning of
Mr.
stepwise?
Yes. Step size.
Step size, okay.
That means this. Like, for example, let me go to my screen. So I saw Mr. Sunday's hand up first. So he will be the one to tell me what to do in the example that I want to. So step size means that, for example, now, in this particular function here, you can see what this particular code, we said that we wanted print a number from 1 to 10 using a step size of 2. So you can see that number 1 here is where we are starting, the number we are starting. Number 10 is where we are stopping. Then 2, it means 2 is a step size. It means that every loop as it's going down, it is adding 2 to it. For example, it started with 1, which was the very first number we wanted. The step size added 2 to 1, it becomes 3. it asks 2 to 3, it becomes 5. It asks 2
okay,
to...
I get it. I get it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yes. So, Mr. Sunday, over to you. What should we do? How can we print numbers from 5 up to 30 included, and a step size is 3?
Okay. Good evening, everyone. So for
Yes, good evening.
For X,
okay.
X in
Yes.
range.
Okay, in range.
In range 5,31.
I should, okay, range 5, comma.
No, bracket.
That's what you told me. Not tell me. Okay, 31.
31, comma 3.
Comma 3. Okay.
Bracket.
Bracket close. Okay, I've closed the bracket.
Colon.
Colon.
Enter.
Okay.
Enter. Print X.
I've done print what X. Very, very simple thing that we can do. So we can see here, he actually added just 31 because of the word. We wanted 30 to be included. And this is what happened. And these are the values that we have gotten. And this is the output of our print. And we have 5, 8, 11, 14, 17, and so on and so on. So now we can also use the same thing. Remember, we're using while loop to create the factors of numbers, and how can we make that possible? Maybe before I start, maybe someone wants to tell me how can we find all factors of a given number. If you can use for loop, please, you can definitely let me know if you'll be able to solve that possible. It's going to be an inclusive kind of class. If you know how to get the how to find all factors of a given number, just as we did for while loop, please let us know now. Can you do that, or I should continue? All right. Okay. Okay, Mr. Sunday, your hand is up, which is going to ask for the user's input.
Okay.
Okay.
Let me try.
Okay. Okay. Try it out. Let's see. Maybe you should try it out. Try it out over there. Let me just continue with the class. Just try it out over there. All right, so guys, let's just try it out here. Let's just go so that we'll have much time to make things work. So we're going to find all factors of a given number, and let's see how we can make it work. Okay, and we're going to start factors that is what's greater than, and it's going to start at 2, and that particular 2 is...
Sorry, sir. Please, I have a question.
To the user, we're going to create... Please, can you hear me, guys?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you very much. So we're going to create... Please mute yourself. We're going to create an integer, and if we are going to casting. We want to cast something, and we're going to ask from the user's input. By the time we ask the user's input, we're going to just print a statement. You can just tell the user, please enter a number. Just enter any number you want to enter. And once you do that, this is when the whole concept of finding factors comes in here. So we're going to say for X in range. Remember when we did for while loop, we started with something like we define a variable. Don't know, let's go back. I think this one was square of the number. So we looked at how we started with, we see what we did here. We started with what they call it, I equals to 2. But in this particular one, we're just saying that we're going to go straight to the whole concept here. We now said, okay, let me go back to it. So we're going to set for X in range, the starting number we're going to use here is what? 2. And for X let's just use for x or any number. We can use anything here. For x in range, let's say 2, comma, the number in which the user is going to what? Impute. Once you have that particular number, you now say, okay, the condition they are going to give is that if that number, once it goes through a modulo division of x, that's each of the numbers that we're going to use, which is going to start from 2. Each of them, as it's going on, if it is divisible and there is no remainder, that means it is 0 equals 0. That means that particular number is definitely what? Divisible by what? The number in which you have imputed. So they're going to bring out different factors according to the range of what that particular number in which the user is going to bring out. So let's see something like this number. I know it's getting more complicated, especially if you're someone that has not gone through to revise it or you have not been attending classes. But just let's find a way to make us understand, because looping at some point, even miss at some point, it gets me to like unawares and like, what is going on here? What have I done on this particular point? So you have to be very, very, just have to think outside the box, go out, try out new things. Even if my method may not work, you may not really get my method, you go on Google, check out videos are there for you to just check it out. So for x in range, we're starting with the number 2, and the next one is what? The number in which the user is going to impute. Whatever we have is going to be used as a range, and in that particular range, as that range is going on, that particular number is being divisible by what? Each of the value that is being what? Given. The x, each of the iteration that is coming up, each of them. So if there are no remainder, that means that's a factor. If there is a remainder, that means that particular one is not a factor. So we're going to say if number is what? Modulo, that's the modulo division, modulo x equals what? 0. What are we going to do? We're going to definitely print that number, because those particular numbers are what? Definitely what? The factors of that number in which the user is going to what? Impute. And it must not pass that particular range. That number will not exceed more than what we want to use. So if you decide to do what? Run this now. They say, please enter a number. So by the time we enter a number, let's say we want to enter 24. By the time we enter 24, you can see it doesn't pass 24 at all. It doesn't pass 24 at all. So the first one is 2. It's definitely, there was 2, there was 3, there was definitely 4, there was 5. There was definitely 5 came out 2 in one of the iteration, because when we say that we don't put the step size, the default value will be what? 1. So 5 came out. So this is what happened in 5. The number that we wanted is, the number that we put here was 24. So there was a time illustration came in, the looping came in, and it was the time for what? 5. So by the time number came in here, number that we put here is 24, and the modulo division came out, and the value of x was 5. So immediately it came out as 5. It's equals to what? It was not equals to 0. There was a remainder. So that's why it did not print it, and it did not bring it as what? One of the x values factors of what? Of 24. So 4 came in, 6 came in, and when 6 came in, it divided it without any remainder. So it printed. There was 7 as well, but when 7 came here for a modulo division, it did not show. It did not show 0. It showed something else apart from 0. It maybe showed 1 at some point. That means it is not what? It did not satisfy this if condition. 9 came in, the same thing. 10 came in, the same thing. 11 came in, the same thing. It did not work. Even 12 came in. Other numbers came in, but it did not work for what? For 24. So that's the concept of what? Factors. And it was in this particular word range. So I don't know if you understand the whole concept now, even though maybe you want to try it out at some point with another kind of method as well. So we definitely see how can we print odd numbers Let's take another example. If you have any question, please, you can always ask at some point. So the next one we're going to look at is how can we print odd numbers? How can we print odd numbers? How can we print odd numbers from 20 to 1, excluded, backwards? How can we do that? How can we do that? Can we do that by ourselves? How can we print odd numbers from, I will do for odd numbers. I will do for odd numbers. After that, you also do for what? Even numbers. Okay. So let me just do for odd numbers and let's see how we're going to make this possible. So how are we going to do print odd numbers from 20 to 0? So the very first thing is definitely we are going to use range, and we're going to use from 20 to what? To what? 1. So what are we going to do? The very first thing we're going to do, what will be the first digit we want to use? What will be the first thing we're going to use here, guys? Anybody that wants to try? What will be the first in the range? In the range, what will be the first number we are going to use as a starting number? What will be the starting number? What will be the starting number? What will be the end number? What will be the step size? Okay, I'll start with the starting number. What do you think will be the starting number? Who wants to try? We want to say odd numbers from, want to print odd numbers from 20 to 1.
Sorry, Bisa, I did not get the question.
Okay, we want to print odd numbers from 20 to 1. And that particular one should be included backwards. We want to print it backwards. How can we do it? So the first thing I'm asking is the step size. We're going to use a range function. And in that range, it's going to have 3 values inside of it: the step size, the start, the end, and the step size. So what the first question I'm asking is, what is going to be the starting number in that particular range? So definitely it's going to be for I in range. For I in range, definitely it's going to be for I in range, or we can just for Uko in range, for KME in range. So anyhow we want to do it. So let's get it. So what will be the first thing? Who wants to try?
I think 21.
Okay, I think 21. Okay, let's see.
If we are starting from 21. Is it 21 or 20?
Print odd numbers from 20 to 1 included. That means 1 should be part of the whole thing backwards.
Okay, and 20 is the first number.
Okay, if you say it's 20,
I'll
I'm
go
going
for
to ask on
21.
what you stop. Okay, there's someone is saying 20, so we're going to try. Okay, we'll go for 21. I'll try for 20. I'll also try for 21. Any other answer? Okay, please mute yourself wherever you are. Okay, good. So let's try for now. Please, the next one will be the end. Where can we end it? What number are we going to end it? Remember that we want it to be what? So that particular print odd numbers from 20 to 1 included. That means 1 should be included. So what are we starting? What are we ending with? Which number are we ending with? Anybody?
0.
Yeah, 0. Okay, let's use 0.
0.
Emmanuel has said 0. Okay, someone has said 0. So now what will be the step size?
-1.
Who said -1? Emmanuel, are you the one?
Yeah.
Okay, -1. Okay, so let's use -1. So this particular one, we're starting with 20 and we are ending at 0. The step size is -1, and we are going to definitely put a colon. And let's see what we're going to do now. What will be the condition that we're going to give to this particular loop for odd numbers? What is the condition we are going to use?
If x
number
equals to 1.
Okay, very good. So if
I modulo 2.
if I modulo, okay, if I modulo 2 equals
equals
1. Okay,
yes,
fantastic. So we're going to do what? Print what?
I
We're going to print I. So let's try. So we're gonna try this for 20. Then after we'll try for 21. Let's see how it's gonna go. So let's print it out and see what we'll have. So we have 19, 17, 15, 13, 11, 9, 7, 5, 3, 1. So definitely, if you try with 20, it's giving us what we want. 20 or print all odd numbers from what? 20, 20 to what? Uh, to what? To 1 backwards. It's doing it backwards. So now let's go and let's use 21 here. We use 21 as well. So you can see it gives us 21, include 21 has added to this particular one. So it's actually affected our code, and actually it's actually a nice one, but this is what we wanted it to be, just from what? 20 to what? 1. So if you add 21 now, it's automatically going to be this particular 21 has already actually tell us, okay, it's not supposed to be part of us. So the correct thing could have been 20, 20. And if you had added 1 here, it means it could have stopped at 3, because in this particular one, 0 is not going to be what added to it, but it's going to be the other number that is close to 0, which is 1. And the step size is -1. So after every iteration, it's subtracting -1. And if that -1, if that number that is subtracted is the modulo of it of 2 is has a remainder of 1, it means that particular number is what? Odd. Please mute yourself. Thank you very much if you're just joining in. Okay, so the next thing we're just going to look at is how can we look? We have been looking at numbers, range, and the rest. How can we now say we want to look over a string? How can we look over strings with for loop? How can we look over a string with for loop? So let's define a particular text and say, okay, definitely let's use, can decide to use Advion. Can decide to use Advion. So now say, let's look through this particular string and see what we can do with it. Please pay attention. So how can we make this work? Some persons are already seen what to do already. So at this particular point, I'll start calling names. If you have to call names, Alpha, is there anybody that wants to just try it out? Is there anybody that wants to try? We just want to look over a string and just bring it out one after the other, one letter after the other. As each letter is coming out, another one is coming out, like in a straight, in a vertical kind of position, one after the other. Is there anybody that wants to just have an idea? Okay, Median, okay, you have the floor. What should I do here?
okay. For later in text. For later
Okay,
in text.
For later in text.
Text colon.
Okay. Okay.
Print later.
Print later. Okay, guys, please. If you can, she could literally use anything in that letter. That this particular letter is an arbitrary kind of variable. It takes a value in space. You may not say that you're saying letters is equals to this. No, it's already like taking it already and like saying, okay, I'm a letter inside this particular text. Each of me is representing each of the text, each of the letters in the word text here. So if you print letters here, it's going to print something remarkable for you. You can see ARTVION. So these are the things that we're going to be using in our Python programming. When we start, there'll be a particular one we'll be using. The next project we're going to be doing is a word kind of project. We're going to bring out different words from different libraries, and we're going to use that to play with a whole lot of things. Please, if you have ever missed a project, that will be the beginning of an amazing project. Please do not miss it. It is a real world kind of scenario kind of thing. You're going to be connecting to the net, instead of just without all this code that you have not been using the net to connect. You see it live and direct. You'll be using libraries and all those kind of. Please learn this, and you're going to apply that in the next phase of the project. Okay, so the next thing I want to look at is how can we concatenate the given text with characters, maybe a particular character like dash. Maybe in Artvion like this, you want it to be, you want this particular Artvion to be like A dash, like something like this, A dash, R dash, T dash, just like that until we get to what? N. So that's what we're going to look at. It is a very popular one. Someone is saying I was locked out of the class. I do not know. Maybe I don't know what has happened. So what we're going to do is to concatenate. Remember when I said concatenate, it means to bring together a given text character with what? A particular value, a particular kind of thing we want to add. So we want to use this particular, the dash sign, or they call it the dash sign, to put them in between these particular letters. And this particular concept is going to take us to this particular concept we want to do. For us to get a perfect one, we're going to go through a concept known as len. We're going to go through a concept also known as enumerate to get to this particular thing in a very perfect kind of way. So in this particular thing we want to do, we're going to go through series of things which is going to be in the next classes as we proceed. So the very first thing we want to do is we're going to ask the user for an input. We can just ask the user and just say user input, and use user input equals to definitely input. Since we're using a string already, by default, we text the string configuration. So you can just say, please, what did I do? Did I press tab? Okay, please enter a text. You can just enter any text. Sorry. Please enter what? A text. So what kind of text? Anything at all. It is a text. So by the time you do this, what are we going to do with that your text? That's the next thing we want to do. What are we going to do with that your text? So remember that we want to get value for new inputs. The value for the new input we want to get, the variable for the new input is definitely what? The dash sign that we want to put in between the what? The words in which we want the text in which we want to put. So we're going to create a new variable, which is going to be a new input. The new input we're going to use, we are going to define it as an empty string. Guys, please pay attention. This is an empty string. Why are we using an empty string? Because we are going to need that particular value inside. We are going to use that. It's just like saying we are defining a particular one to be maybe like 1. But this particular one, instead of 1, we are using an empty string so that we can use that particular empty string, and we are going to use that string to add other characters inside that string. Just like when we define something as said 0. I don't know, there was a time we were doing summation here. Let me go back. There was a time we were doing summation. Let me check. You can see here, the time we were doing summation, we said summation is equals to 0. So after some point, after when we got to the summation, we now started adding things to that original value. Okay, plus to that particular initial value of what? 0. So that's the same thing we are kind of doing for the string character here. So this thing that we did. Okay, is okay. So that's the same thing we are doing for this empty string. We are already putting in a variable, and we are putting it an empty string. And by the time we get that, we're going to now add something to that particular empty string, which is going to be what we had already wanted to do right now. So remember, we want to add dashes in between the text in which the person is going to bring in as from the user. So we're going to say for we can use anything, maybe for letter in, we're going to reference the user input already, user underscore input. We're going to use user input definitely is showing, so just press tab. And how are we going to make that possible? So we now said, okay, add dash after character and do what? Concatenate into the new what? Input. So what are we going to do is that the value for what? For later that we're going to get now is going to be what? Added, concatenated with what we want to put into the empty string. For example, now look at what I'm going to do. New underscore input underscore input. That is the empty string one we have defined already. We want to put those two things together into what the letter and what the dash we want to use. So we're going to concatenate and we're going to add them in each of the loop, in each of the for loop as it is coming, is going to be what expressed as one. So plus the same thing equals to, just like the same thing we have been doing in a not using numbers, plus equals to what? Letter. The letter from the user plus, that's the concatenation itself. The concatenation itself. And now what are we adding? We are adding to what? We are adding what? This particular thing. What are we adding? The string that we don't want, this particular one, we don't want it to be empty. We want it to be what? Dash. So by the time we make this work for us, by the time we do that, what are we going to do? We're going to now say, okay, now that you are done with this, I can remember something about when I was trying to explain the concept of for loop, and I said something about people, maybe people are in the class, and each of them is this particular one, you are saying that they are boys, and this particular one, they are girls. Inside that particular class, there are things going on, and these are the things that are actually going on. The new underscore input plus equals to letter plus what? The dash you want to put into this particular letter. So they have come out, each of them, one after the other. And I said, okay, now we are through with this concatenation. What is the final result? And what are we going to, if you put in the print function inside this loop, it will do what? It will bring them out one after the other. But that is not what we want. What we want is what? We want all of them to come together. So how do we get the value for coming together? We're not going to bring out inside this for loop. We're going to say, okay, now you guys are through with all this manipulation inside the for loop. Now, what is the final result? I leave the for loop and I come out and I say print what? New underscore input. Okay. So by the time you run this, definitely the user will be asked for a text. So what is the text? We can just decide to say, let's use Axion. You can see what is going on right now. It has finished its manipulation inside the for loop. And I said, okay, guys, print out the what? The new input, which is now what? A dash R dash T dash V dash I dash O dash N dash. Now that's the concept I told you, that you are going to use learn and enumerate to figure out how to remove this. We don't want this last dash to be after N. We want it to be what? To stop at what? The last dash to be between O and N. We don't want it to be after what? N. So we're going to take another series of class like learn and enumerate to figure that one out. So if you do not understand this concept, let me do something like this. Let me, inside this particular follow, let me print new input. Let me print new input right now. Let's see. Let's try and comment this. And let's see what we'll have. So let's use Axion. So you can see what happens here. You can see what happens here. So each of them, as it's coming, it's adding. You can see what is adding. It is adding what? Different letters to it. As it's coming, A comes add with dash. The next one, that A dash adds with another one, R dash, just like that until we get to the final one. That's why this particular one is trying to do, okay, all these things people are doing, I don't want to see my A dash. I don't want to see A dash, R dash. I don't want to, once people are finished with all the things you are doing, please just allow me. I'm leaving the loop. Just come and print out my values for me and they act outside the particular word loop. So that's what happened in this particular whole concept. So I can decide to clean this one out. Please pay attention. This will be needed in your project. You see it live and direct. Though There may be other things you may also need to Google up, but these are one of the basic things you should have a pictorial kind of idea of what to do. Okay, at this particular point, I would like to see guys how far. Any questions? What do you have any questions right now? If you have any questions, please let me know. Please, if you have any questions, please let me know. Okay, instead of just using dash, maybe you should use another, maybe just try something out by yourself. I would like you, in the next 15 minutes, I'd like you to try something and you can post it in the WhatsApp group. The very first thing I want you to do is maybe classwork is, the first one is going to be, let's print even numbers from 30 to 5 inclusive backwards. The very first one is print even numbers from 30 to 5 inclusive. That means 5 will be included backwards. That's the very first classwork. Then the next one is concatenate a given text character with, let's use the percentage. The percentage, that's a modulo kind of sign, but you're going to put it in a string. So use a percentage sign to do what? Concatenate with a particular text from the user. You just have some few minutes to do that. Please, everyone should go into hands-on right now. Let's see what we can come up with. Please, can you hear me? I hope everybody can hear me. Can anyone hear me?
No, I didn't.
Okay, the first question is print odd numbers from 30 to 5 backwards. That's 5 should be inclusive backwards. That's the very first thing you should do. Then the next one you should do is even numbers 30 to 5 backwards, even numbers only. That's the very first one. Then the next one is,
you said the first one
is 30 to 5, 30 to 5 inclusive, even numbers. 30 to 5 inclusive backwards, even numbers only. You should print out even numbers from 30 to 5 backwards inclusive. Then the next one is concatenate a string with a text using the percentage sign as we did in the class tonight. You can do that now. I don't know if you get the whole concept now. Do you understand the question?
Yes.
Okay, good. Please, you can try it out. Please try it out, Mr. Funso, Dekunle, Mr. Drak, Nathaniel, Dr. Femi, Mr. Sunday, Mr. Moses just joining. Mr. Baba Ibrahim is still with us. Dr. Solomon, Mr. Cole, Ms. Emedion. Please try something out for us. Let's see what you can come up with. You have just a few minutes to do that. So at this particular point, I would like to stop the recording and thank you guys for paying attention. If there are questions, please ask. Maybe as you're solving, you want to ask some questions, please do.